Welcome to the Engine Markets training session. Meanwhile, others are joining in. We will talk about today's topic. So I hope I am audible to everyone and my screen is visible. So we can go ahead with our next slide where we will discuss about mutual fund analytics for different categories, and then we will have Q&A. And you can write us on the chat or verbally, and we will try to address all your questions up in a consolidated manner. So let's head back to our engine terminal where I will show you our software and we can start with our session. So as you can see, I've loaded our system. So, initially when you log into our software, you will see the market section. And if you want to load in mutual fund analytics for any particular funds, you can load it by two ways. So there are, one way is to directly type in those funds. And other way is to directly head into the compare section or the fund section where you can actually click on the name of the funds to load in those funds. As an example, if I remove this all, right, you can add a list of multiple funds. So let's say I'm adding Axis Mid Cap Fund, right? Once I add this fund, it gets added into the list. I can add another fund like HDFC Credit Risk, right? So you can see two different types of categories has been added. You can also add in another, another category of the fund like Kotak Balance Advantage. So we have added three different types of funds, and let's say we want to analyze them differently in different sets of analytics. What you can do is you can click on the name, and another page gets onboarded. So let me just show you accordingly. So you can see the new tab has been activated just by clicking on the names of the funds. So I'm just clicking it again for another set of fund, and again. So we have three sets of funds in one single place where you can analyze them in a different tabs. Let's say we want to load in the system itself, then what we should do? We should just search those funds. So let's say I'm searching Axis Blue Chip, right? So you can easily see how the analytics gets loaded into the system itself. So let's get back and let's analyze one of the single category of the funds, and then we will talk about how we can use this analytics for effectively selecting funds and taking decisions for the client's portfolio. To make a proper set of full screen, you can just click on that button and you can actually start analyzing any single mutual fund itself. Now, let's talk about a bit of a basics here. So basics in the sense you can change the start dates from here, and you can have a minimum common period, or maybe let's say 5 years ago, 3 years ago. So let's click it on 5 years ago, right? So you will see from the 15th August 2017, this is how the fund performance has been compared to the benchmark, right? And you can also see the couple of parameters like AUM. So you can see the historical AUM. You just have to click on this, button, and you can see the historical AUM in such manner. And you can also download this data set into CSV. So if you want to see this entire data set in Excel, all you have to do is click on this button altogether. So it gets downloaded as an AUM history, and that is how you can use it accordingly. The next tab is the all funds option tabs, where you can actually load in different sets of fund options like direct and regular, and even IDCW, and even in debt there are some institutional and bonus options where you can activate it all together into this particular list as well. And here you can change the benchmark. So let's say you want to keep Nifty mid cap, you can easily do that, and you can do the fund performance analytics against any single benchmark. So let's consider this and see the relative performance and the performance stats to see how what kind of analytics we are actually looking into. So one thing important here is we have given couple of ratios. One of them is a Sharpe ratio, Sortino ratio. You can also see the annual volatility, annual return, the CAGR, and the cumulative return. And you can also check the historical annual VAR, which shows you that there's a 5% probability in a 95% confidence interval that you can have a loss of a drawdown of negative 22.92. So it's a probabilistic approach. You can change the confidence interval as per needed. You can make it 98, which makes the probability as 2%, or 99, which makes the probability as 1%. And then you can see the drawdown being changed. So this historical annual VAR is based on the historical daily returns, whereas the implied is based on the historical volatility. So you can also change this accordingly and see what kind of drawdown you're achieving. So this is very useful to understand the risk of any particular mutual fund easily. And you can also take a look towards the relative stats. So in a sense, as you know, we have actually changed the benchmark. So in a relative sense, what is our excess return over benchmark, which is a cumulative outperformance, and what is our annual return over benchmark, which is easily updated here. We do have tracking error and info ratio and the capture ratios. And the capture ratios are very important because you can actually look towards what kind of returns our fund has generated against the benchmark. So you can see the monthly return set compared to the benchmark for every single month. And for a reminder, this is from 2017 because we have changed the start date as 2017 altogether. So that's how this works out. And accordingly, you can also see the monthly chart and the yearly chart as well. So the monthly chart shows you the entire simple returns from 2017, and the yearly chart. So if you want to change it, if you want to make it since inception, you can easily do it and check the monthly chart since inception altogether. So this is how this works out for the, since inception. This is the yearly performance of the entire fund, and this is the monthly performance of the entire fund in simple returns approach. And whereas you can also see the stats, and now the stats is very useful because you can actually see how many of the months were up, basically positives, right? And you can also see how many percent of the months were negatives. So you can see what is the average up months, which is 4.28, and what is the average down months for any fund. So basically I can compare it all together with all the mid caps and make new tabs all together and see what kind of up months and down months I'm achieving from those funds. Let's say we compare Kotak Balance Advantage. You can see, the up months, average up months for Kotak versus Axis is actually, differing, and even in the down months. So you can actually compare it side by side all together with two different tabs, right? And you can also see the yearly stats of any fund directly into the system. So what are the, positive years? So it actually shows you the frequency that in a positiveness, 90% of the time, 90% of the time, the years were positive. 9 years out of 10 were positive, and 1% it has been negative. So it's a pretty much a good way to understand in a monthly and a yearly, stats, what kind of funds we are looking into, what kind of analytics it shows you based on the performances. And you can also change the value directly from here. So to change the value, all you have to do is just, type in certain value, let's say 40 lakhs. And, it shows you from this date to this particular date, which is the current date, what is the accumulated value. And you can also make it as per actual NAV as well. So these are some useful parameters, whereas you can actually take a look towards. And you can also, if you want to not show the benchmark, or if you want to just see the rebase price, all you have to do is just click on this. Now you can only see the rebase price. So this is a pretty good hack where you can actually see only the rebase price or only the benchmark altogether. So, and you can also zoom into the system directly if you want to zoom in. So that is how the fund performances works out. You can look towards multiple sets of analytics, and also, the asset allocation. So asset allocation shows you a pretty much good way to see a detailed and a non-detailed view of the holdings of any mutual fund. So let's say you're looking towards the detailed view, right? So all you have to do is you just have to click on this. If you click on this, you will see different sets of, detailed view, right? The better example would be a hybrid fund. When I click on an asset allocation, I can click on this detailed view. I can see a set of securities, in a detailed manner. So if I want to see the government securities, I can click on them. I can see all the GSECs. I can see the treasury bills. I can see the corporate debts and also the equities. So all the equity exposures are given here. And one more important thing is we have also given, a new update as derivative shorts. where you can click on show shorts. You can first, apply this. Once you apply this, your equity exposure changes, and you can click on show shorts, and you can see all the negative exposures altogether. So essentially what it does is, when you scroll down from the system, from all holdings, all the way down, you will see all the negative exposures. So that's how, this works out. You can download this data sets in Excel as well. And the based on what you have clicked on a detailed view or on a non-detailed view, you can actually download that particular, sense of PDF, a seamless PDF. And then we can look towards the position changes by month. So I'm just, going throughout different sets of funds to show you what kind of analytics we have, and how you can use it. You can actually change the months accordingly to see the largest increases and the decreases and the positions removed, right? And you can also, change it accordingly since 31st July 2021 for any single, particular month. And you can see what kind of positions have been added and removed. Then we have got positions over, which gives you a proper set of, data sets for, by security and sector as well. So it shows you actual positions, by month. You can click on by security, and you can see what kind of securities, exposures there were from the, last 12 months. So it gives you a proper set of idea. You can actually download this data set in Excel as well, and you can view this as per sector as well. So accordingly, you can see the government sector, the banking, the debt, and the IT is given here altogether into the system, right? And then we have the concentration. So concentration is one place where it is very useful to understand if the top three exposures are highly concentrated or not. So how you can view this? All you have to do is come into the overview, and you just, you just come up into the system. In the all holdings, you can see the top three exposures. So this is what accounts for the top three exposures in the into this particular fund. And you can just see the concentration for top 3 till top 20 altogether. And you can also see, as per the equity market cap exposure, based on the equity exposures, what is the, market cap exposures only on the base of equity. So you can click on this as per equity exposures and see the percentage allocation as well. Then we have equity sectors, which gives you an ability to click on those sectors and see what kind of stocks are there in that equity sectors for this particular mutual fund. And then we have debt. So debt gives you all the fund credit ratings, the debt sectors as well. And you can actually, once you add such a fund into a portfolio, you can view a couple of, average maturity and yield to maturity as well. And if you want to look towards the, YTM average maturity, we have already given the, the parameters here for the, debt part of the fund. And you can also click on this button to see the historicals. So basically we have given the historicals for YTM average maturity and the duration, which is given as a downloadable function in a CSV file. So you can download this as a CSV file itself. So this is how this works out. And one more important thing in the analytics is the peer comparison, because we do the comparisons of the benchmark all together in the fund performance. But here we have got one more function where you can click on this peers, and you can see the SEBI classification average against any, any mutual fund you have added. So you can see this for the balance advantage, that what kind of, comparisons are we doing based on the CAGR, based on the 1 year, 5 year, and the volatility as well. So you can see according that even in this peer comparison, you can click on this, this particular functions. Like, let's say we are looking for CAGR, right? For CAGR, we can see that, where are we standing against other peers, or maybe let's say for volatility and the Sharps ratio. It's pretty easy to get a look towards the peer comparison in dynamic asset allocation or any such. So if you go for a credit risk fund, you just go to the peer section, and you can see for all the credit risk fund in the SEBI classification how the peer comparison has been. So you can see accordingly, the best is currently for the 5 years is ICICI Pru Credit Risk, and where do we stand is the question. So, and you can also do the peer comparisons in TER. So that's how this works out for the peers as well. Then we have got another one functionality, which is fund managers. So for fund managers, what you can do is you can easily, look towards the fund managers just by clicking on them. And a very important functionality, because as you can click on the fund, you can actually activate it as a new tab. What do I mean by this is, let's say you're looking for this particular fund manager, and you would definitely want to take a look towards the other funds what this fund manager manages, right? So let's remove other funds altogether to just take a look into this fund, and you can actually click on this funds, right, and load the analytics of other funds. It's pretty simple. All you can do is, you just click on them, and you can analyze those funds, side by side, just by, in a matter of click. So there is a portion called a compare section where you can actually compare the entire set of all the mutual fund place. But if you want to see a side by side comparisons of all the funds which the fund manager manages, you can easily look into that as well, right? And even in the fund managers, we have given the entire set of data sets of when the fund manager started managing, and across how many funds, and all the data sets into the system as well. So this is how this works out for the fund manager details. There are two analysis where you can easily activate in any particular mutual fund. So let's say we are loading a fund. Let's say we are loading an equity based fund directly into our system. So here, as you can see, we can actually do rolling analysis for a different sets of period, just by clicking on this rolling analysis. So I'm just going to click on this, loads the rolling analysis for three sets of period, which is a 1 year, 2 year, and a 3 year, which is 260, 520, and 780. You can also change this for, let's say, 5 years. You can make it 1300 and run this. And every single chart, if you click on these buttons, you can remove other charts and just look towards one single rolling window. Now the importance here is that this rolling window, based on the absolute basis for a 260 days from this particular start date, this shows you any data point, whichever you point in this rolling window, it shows you the sum of the previous 260 days daily returns. It's basically, in the layman terms, you're trying your investments from 2011 till today for 260 days. So what would be your daily returns, sum of the daily returns? So that gives you an average of 15.03. It's average of all this data compiled with a arithmetic mean. And you can actually see the volatility of this entire data set. How volatile is this data set, and the highs and the lows. So there is a point where this particular fund has gone as high as 52.13, and there is also a point where this fund for a 260 days period has gone as low as negative 17.95. Now if you want to compare different time frames in a different manner, what you can do is you can change this time frames here, and you can run this. Once you run this, and once you make this annual, you can easily understand that if there is a change in volatility or not, or if there is a change in the average or not. So you can easily see the average is decreasing as the time frame is increasing for this particular fund, right? Whereas the volatility is also decreasing a lot, and your low is actually positive now. You can do it for even a 780 days, which is a 3-year period. You can run this, and once you run this, you can see the in an annualized sense how is the low and the high. So it gives you a proper sense of idea that if you're going for such a fund for 780 days from this particular date till today, then you could expect an average of 14.95% from this fund. And you can easily see the graph of 780 days altogether. So that's how this works out. As low as you can see, it's just 5.38 for the 780 days period. And it's a very useful function to analyze this, because it will give you a proper sense of idea in an analyzed sense. And you can even analyze not just 260, 780. Even if you type 130, which is a 6 months period, you can see the analyzed sense of that as well. So it becomes truly volatile compared to 260. See, I can even compare 260 in one single place, right? So that's how this works out. Accordingly, you can also see the distribution. So let's say we are looking towards the distribution of 260. So you can change the distribution from here, from the window. Whatever window you select, that gets activated here. And you can also see the return ranges. So the return ranges is basically what we have done is we have taken the negatives, the least value and the maxima value, and then given you the entire distribution. So you can easily see for a 60 period, most of frequency is between 10 to 24% of the returns. So this is a return ranges. You can actually change this return ranges. Let's say I want to check from 0 to 24. What is my frequency? It's 66%, right? So there's a 66% probability or a frequency to come into in this particular return range for this particular fund, right? And then we have rolling volatility analysis, which gives you a very important insights about how the volatility has been changing for that particular period, rolling window. Basically you see the 130 because I have added it here. What you can do is, let's say we are just checking for 260 for a 1 year period. So for a ballpark 1 year period, you can see how the volatility started from 17.89 and it has been decreasing and increasing in a very dynamic manner. And it increased again in this particular period, which was a crisis period of COVID. And then it again shot up again. So you can actually see what kind of average we are achieving for a 260 days rolling volatility. And this is very useful because if you see the entire set of annualized standard deviation in fund performance, it's actually 13.97. But in a sense, the volatility does change. The volatility change in a frame wherever you start your rolling window from. So that's how this works out for the rolling volatility analysis. We have one more analysis which shows you drawdowns. So drawdowns gives you an ability to see what are the losses basically from the top 10 losses and how many days it took to recover. So essentially, let's look towards these gray areas. So this gray area shows you the losses. I'm just gonna zoom in this period and show you what is drawdown all about. So let's say we started our investments here, right, in this particular area where you can see the NAV. So this is the NAV price, and it had a drawdown of this particular period. So it's from October 16, which is actually this one, right? So accordingly, you can see what kind of days, how many days it took to recover. So it took couple of days to recover. So you can see the days to recover here itself. There we have given the start date, the end date, the start price and the end price, whereas how many days it took to recover for that particular price range. And you can also currently see here there is a drawdown which is still recovering, which is one of the top second drawdown which is given here. And you can just zoom this in and you can see there is a huge drawdown we had, which is 22.22%. And we are currently recovering it, and it has been as per 64% right now, and it's still ongoing. So it's a pretty good way to understand what kind of strength this particular fund holds. You can do drawdown analysis not just for any equity fund. You can also do it for the debt fund as well. It shows you a different set of drawdown altogether. Let me just show you up. Just a moment. If I go for any credit risk fund, you can see some drawdowns here itself. There would be a smaller drawdowns, but you can still see how many losses they have incurred and what kind of recovery they are actually showing, right? And it's pretty useful to understand this because it will give you an ability to take a look towards the strength of this entire fund, right? So let's go back to this particular fund. We will talk about one more important thing is you can screenshot this drawdowns over time, and whatever, even if you zoom this in, right, and if you generate a PDF report, that particular zoom in function will be actually printed into the PDF. So you should be aware that whatever system you have zoomed it in, that will be actually displayed into the PDF. And that's how this works out. And then we have distribution analysis as well, where distributions, what you can do is you can look towards the return period. So let's take it a basic example that we need to take a number of intervals. So these are the number of intervals we have, which are 10, and the return period which we are taking daily. So you can change the frequency of the returns, basically weekly or a monthly set as well. So let's keep it monthly as per now to actually see the proper observation. So the observation shows you there are 143 months from the particular start date. We have this mean, which is a mean of this entire months, and the median as well, and the mode as well, and the skewness. So you can see how skewed are the returns of all the 143 months for this particular Axis Blue Chip Fund, right? And you can see the highest frequency. So it is between 1.04 to 4.01, which is showing a frequency of 29.37. And you can actually see it for any particular return period. If I do it for daily, you can see this for daily. And if you change this bins, the more bins you have, let's say 100 bins, then it will divide those sets into 100. So you can see lots of, bins has been, allocated. So you can actually change it. So to simplify it, you must keep it, as low as possible, which will give you a proper sense of idea that how the return period been, given into this distribution. And you can also look towards the scenario analysis. Now, scenario is just a basic start and end date, scenarios where you can actually see a couple of insightful things, which is like, let's say you want to add a custom scenario, right? So to add a custom scenario, you need to know the start date and the end date of that scenario. So let's say we take a scenario like XYZ, right? We keep a start date, we keep an end date, and then we, analyze it all together. So let's say between August to 2017 till November 17, if we save the scenario, what has happened, right? So you can actually see compared to Nifty 100, we actually had better access return over benchmark in this particular time range. And we have already given the start and the end date and the performance of our fund against the benchmark. We were lesser volatile against the benchmark, and we had a better return set against the benchmark. So one important thing is you can change the benchmark here, and you can also do the custom benchmarking. So we can talk about custom benchmarking in another session altogether. But that's how this works out for the entire mutual fund analytics. And one important thing is that whenever you add the mutual fund, the same analytics also gets loaded into the portfolio analytics, where you can view couple of things. And there are 2-3 things where you can do is, one is making the seamless PDF reports. To make that PDF report, all you have to do is just click on them. So I'm just giving you an example. Let's say I zoomed this in. I just want to show this scenario as a ballpark example. All I have to do is just click on this 3-pager report, and the report gets generated. Once it gets generated, you can see the entire report set in, it's a 3-pager. Just a moment. Yeah, I hope it is visible to everyone. Yeah, so I'm just presenting this in. Okay. So this is how this report looks like. You can actually see it that I have changed the drawdown, only those that particular graph has been shown accordingly. And even for the, windows. So as you know, I've customized my rolling window for 130, 260 and 780. So that's how, I've done it even for rolling volatility. So it's a dynamic PDF altogether. And if you want to customize it further, for the exact customization, you can actually make a PowerPoint report, and it's a very powerful report because you can do lots of customization, add some fund insights into your portfolio PowerPoint report as well. So I'm just going to show you the PowerPoint report of the fund here. You can just load this in and, easily customize it all together. So it's a proper set of report which shows you all the holdings, you know entire asset allocation, and asset allocation based on the position concentration, the market cap exposures, whatever analytics we have discussed before, everything is displayed here as well. And you can also see lots of analysis, like rolling analysis, like the windows we have taken into account, the drawdowns, all these stuffs are given in one particular format. And one important thing is that if you want to just show the position concentration of top 3 and top 5 and not top 10 and top 20, you can easily customize that as well, just by selecting the data set and changing it all together. So we are not suggesting you the change in the data set, but just whatever you want to show, you can easily show into the system just by customizing it. And that's how it is easily customizable, every single parameter. And one important thing is that if you can see this is equity, cash and debt, right? If you change it to detailed view in this asset allocation, so it will not just show equity, cash and debt, it will show the components of the debt as well. So those components which were added. So that is how this works out for the PowerPoint and even for the seamless reports. And if you want to load in an SIP, detailed SIP analysis, you can just click on this particular, piggy bank button, and an SIP gets loaded for that fund. So that is all for today, for today's session. We just wanted to talk about how fund analytics can be useful for you to analyze that particular fund in a, in a rigorous manner. And then you can come up with a suggestion. You can add all the funds into the compare section. You can save the list. All the lists are, savable here. Like, let's say we are saving up all the mid cap composition list, and you can load in one by one, just, adding in different tabs and looking towards the analytics of the funds. So that's all for this session. We can start with the Q&A. Any questions?
Hi, this is Arunab. There are some questions on the chat. Umair, can we start with the first few?
Yes. So the first question is, what is the derivative shorts that we have shown before?
Okay, so these are basically the arbitrage funds or the balanced advantage funds. Yes, just load any one of them. They also report short positions that these funds hold in equities using derivatives, and which is a lot of times used to calculate effectively the net equity position. We earlier on we weren't reporting these, so a lot of people had asked for it. So now we have done that, and you have a choice to either see them or not. So as you can see, as Umair clicked off that button, the equity position went to 66.93. If you choose to use them, you apply them, and the equity position reduces because of the corresponding short positions they have to create their arbitrage. And you can click on show shorts, and it will take you right down to the below list here. And you can see these are the kind of short positions that this fund has in these particular stocks. Generally speaking, you'll always find a matching long up on the top for each of these short positions. If you go right to the top, obviously the long and the short absolute value will be slightly different, which might reflect their view, but that's what these are. Okay, so we also have another question.
So basically, okay, now I got it. So you are saying if I click that apply show shorts, then what I get is the net equity.
Yes, correct. Absolutely.
Okay, so now this is very useful. I mean, I was one who had asked earlier also this.
Okay, perfect.
Really,
perfect. So we finally got the data, sir, and so we've given it. And if you want to look at it in the old way, then you can always take it off. By default, it's always on.
Okay. Okay. Excellent. This is a great utility.
Thank you, sir.
It's just that definition that is given did not make it so obvious. But
yes,
very useful.
yes.
Maybe a net equity kind of stuff word is what we generally use.
Okay, understand. Perfect. So we can change some of the labels here. That's fine.
Thank you. Thank you.
There's another question saying, is there any option to check stocks held by mutual funds? Yes, we actually have a very nice analysis for that. Umair, could we go ahead to the fund section, please? And here, holding analysis. So if you just keep a note of this tab, there are many different ways that you can do it. I'll just quickly show you. So first is, this shows you what kind of sector exposures that we have through all the mutual fund holdings, which you can look at as percentage, average percentage holding or average value held. This is basically focused only on sectors, not on individual stocks, which will be the next tab. And here you can actually click on any of these numbers and you can see which funds have an exposure to this sector. Any of these numbers on this whole table is clickable. So, and you can see over time. So not only do you get to see which funds have exposure to this sector, you can see what the percentage is, what the amount is. If we close this and just look at the table one more time, you can see how the average exposure to the banking sector has changed over the last 12 months. It used to be 17, now it's about 19. So this is this tab, the stock changes tab. It basically shows you the same thing, but in this case, instead of sector exposure, we show you individual stock exposure. As you can imagine, this will become a lot of data. So we've given you a couple of filters which are mandatory. So here, what we're looking at is we're looking at all the funds that are classified as equity funds. who have exposure to any large cap stocks only. If you want to see mid cap, you just have to click that and then you see only mid cap, not the large cap, right? But you can select accordingly. And so here again, you can see ICICI Bank stock exposure is, around about 6% and it's gone up to about 7.64%. And the other thing that's very useful to click here is the show fund counts here, which we just clicked right now. And you can see in the bracket, a small number is there. That shows you that this is the number of funds using which that average has been calculated. The reason that this is important is especially when you look at, some of the lines below, you can see maybe the fifth one down below 4.96. Yeah, you can see, that's an average of only 12 funds. So that may not be that representative, right? Because if we didn't know that number 12, we would assume that this stock, has a reasonably high exposure across all equity funds, but that's not really the case. It has a high exposure across only 12 mutual funds, right? So you can click on that and you can actually see the 12 mutual funds. So that's why sometimes if you see a number that doesn't seem right, you can always click on that show fund counts checkbox that you may just click. But if you're looking at bigger stocks, in that case, sometimes you don't want to make the table too messy. So you can remove that as well by just clicking. Another thing to note here is you can see these as values in rupees instead of average percentage holding, because the percentage holding could be, the AUM could be small, but it will still show up. So here you can see that ICICI Bank used to have 65 lakh crores. Now it has 84 lakh crores invested in it. Of course, that can be a function of many, many things. It could be a function of AUM. That doesn't necessarily mean that equity mutual funds are more bullish ICICI. It could just mean that equity mutual funds have increased their AUM. So the reason may not be clear here, but you can see what is happening. And finally, to answer your question directly, let's go to the second last tab, the equity holdings tab. So if you're wondering about one particular stock and who is holding that stock, you could have either clicked on any of those things on the table at the previous tab, or you can just search up any stock here and you will see immediately see a list of all the funds that hold that stock. So hopefully that answers your question.
Very nice. Actually, I want this.
Yeah. Yeah. So this is available here.
Last option, equity holdings, that I want to know. Because every time we are facing one issue that ICICI Bank we have to purchase, but in which mutual fund I cannot identify. So that is the reason I will ask the question the same.
Yes. So here you can just search for ICICI Bank and instantly you will get it.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
No problem. And there's another question which is saying rolling return section under 3-year rolling. What does high-low mean? Umer, can we just run any fund, just analytics, so we can go to that section? Yeah, so rolling analysis. So here, sir, you're asking about high and low in, let's say, the 780 period. So this
my question was on that 105.36 and 13.
Yes. So, sir, this is basically the highest 780-day period that has happened for this return series in the entire period that we are running from. And the entire period means starting from 11 April 2011 to now. So if you look at every single 780-day period, moving ahead in time day by day, every single one, not monthly, not weekly, every day. This 105.36 is the absolute, because we've selected absolute on the top, absolute highest 780-day period you've ever had. And the absolute worst 780-day period is 13.8. So this fund in this period has never lost money on a 780-day period, ever. When I say never, I mean since 2011.
Okay, can you make it analyze then? Let's see.
Yeah. May I just change that to analyze, please?
Okay. So can I? So there are many 780 combinations during this 10 years period.
Yes.
So in these things, the maximum annual return seen is 35.12. Is that how I should say?
Yes. Over a 780-day period, the annualized best period has been 35.1.
Okay. So it's basically, if I choose annualized, it's an annualized return. That's how I should.
Exactly. If you have 780 days, it will annualize it. If you have,
if I take 260 days, obviously it will be annual return only.
Yes.
So it is the real question will be only when it is 520 or 7.
520 or 7.
Yeah. So it's an annual return. And, okay.
Exactly.
So one can say, I mean, we can interpret that saying, if anyway we are telling you to do for 3 years. So if I take 3-year rolling and compare it,
yes,
this fund has given an annual return, maximum annual return of 35%.
35%.
It has the lowest it has ever given is 4.61. On an average, it has been 18.84.
Yes, that's right. That's right.
Okay.
And that's on the chart on the left. It is charted every single 780-day period.
Oh, it is every single 780 day. Okay.
Over time.
Okay.
Any point that you stop, for example, just stop somewhere. So this is saying on 30th of June 2015, if you look back 780 days, the return, annualized return was 30.28.
Okay. All right.
Perfect. The next question is how do we check how many funds are holding the same stock? So I believe we've just answered that. Is there any option to check stocks held by mutual funds? Yes, so we've just done that. Sortino ratio is not reflecting in tables. So we do show Sortino ratio in many places. So if we go to the screener, risk columns or some, I think if you just select risk columns or there it is, Sortino. So you will find it in the screener for sure. Let's just check if it is in the compare section. If not, and then we can make a note to include that. Okay, so in the compare section we don't have Sortino. So second, we'll just write that down and add Sortino to the compare section. Okay, problem. Is it possible to view market cap allocation for funds over time? Yeah, that is, I don't think we have that anywhere. That's a good one. We should probably think about it. I mean, can we just load a fund quickly so we can have a quick look? Any fund. Okay, so here, and then let's go to positions over time, asset allocation, and then so here we show you. Let's go to positions over time, the third tab, and so here we show you by sector and by security. What we can do is add a market cap option here. Obviously, that will only be useful for equity funds. Okay, fine. We've got that in there. We will try to include that. All right. So, and we have another question saying we are trying to create a portfolio for a client who's got debentures holding in it along with MF and stocks. How do we do it? Okay, so the debentures that you're trying to add, do you have any kind of data for that?
Yes, we do have.
Okay. Any kind of historical returns or something like that you have for that, even if it's monthly,
That's the ISI number. They cannot find that ISI number.
So basically, we are unable to find the ISIN number for the debentures on the system.
Right. Now the thing is, since this is a debt security, right? It is not something we support in the portfolio section because obviously it's very hard to backtest debt securities. I mean, we'll have to make a lot of assumptions for that. Now, if you have created some sort of return series to represent the returns, historical returns of that debenture, you can easily add a custom security by basically putting that return series in here. And once you create that custom security, you are then able to add that custom security in the portfolio section to any new portfolio. So when you create a new portfolio, you can add, a fund, you can add a stock, and you can add any of the custom securities that you've entered. So the only way we currently have, we would have for a debenture or similar debt security is for you to first create the historical returns and then add them as a custom security and then add that custom securities to the portfolio analysis.
Okay, we got your point. I have the question related to the same.
Okay.
Let's supposing that the client has got the Tata Motors debentures holding in their portfolio,
right?
Along with the stocks and mutual fund. Now the client has given us the portfolio to review.
Fair enough.
right? So
Yes.
we are trying to put the data into the application,
Mhm.
the same application. So
Yes.
will the system allow us to do that? I mean,
Well, the thing is,
have,
when you're doing a portfolio review here, obviously the funds and stocks can be back tested and you can do a proper analysis. Because we don't have any data for debentures as such, you can and plus on top of that, that's really a debt exposure, right? Now what you can do is either leave that and not upload it, and obviously do a portfolio analysis without debentures of the rest of the positions. That is one way. The other way is you replace that portfolio weight, which is been given to debentures, and you replace it with something else, which is a standard line, growing over time or not growing at all. So what you can do is add the funds and the stocks here, and then either rescale them up to 100%, so you can basically analyze the client's portfolio for the funds and stocks only, and not the direct debt holdings. Because if you're going to backtest a debt holding, it becomes very subjective. You could add a cash line, for example, just to make sure everything adds up to 100%. But backtesting debt will become very hard.
so here with this, can we say that we do not give any recommendation on the existing holding of the client on the debt side?
That's right. That's right. Into the direct debt side, because obviously if they have debt mutual fund exposure, that is fine. You can easily run that on our system. But if they have direct debt holdings like bonds or debentures, then you could say that we have taken that portion of your portfolio out and we are analyzing the remaining part.
Okay. Thank you. Fine. Thank you so much for the reply.
No problem. So I believe we've gone through this, the question on the chat. Is there anything else anybody wants to ask?
It's not a question, but just a suggestion. I really don't know whether I'm asking too much.
No,
but,
please.
Yeah, so these trainings, these training sessions we have been attending for quite some time have been very useful. And we have been using the software also for a while now.
Yes.
The suggestion is going forward, if it is possible, if everybody is a user, then it helps. It may be a mixed population here, so it may be complex. Instead of going, this appears now fast for us in the sense,
right.
You want to cover everything. I mean, Umair wanted to cover everything about mutual funds, so he went through each of the features.
Yes.
So it's now sounding more like a demo than really a training.
Right.
Rather, going forward, if it is possible, for example, I will tell you, see the PPT, PDF, these things we know anyway. We have been doing it for long now.
Understand, sir.
Instead of if you focus on explaining the terminologies and the interpretation of that, it will be probably more value add. But you can choose a different time for that. That's perfectly fine. Because this may be mixed population here, so I don't know.
Yes, sir. Of course. So what we do is we obviously have to keep a balance, because there are new people, signing up very regularly to the system. So, I know, of course, you're aware of PowerPoints and PDF, etc. But, the new users who have signed up with us last week or last month, they may not be fully aware of all the capabilities of the system. So we have to keep, doing some repetition. So what we will obviously
absolutely, I understand that. Yeah. Because I was also one like that 1 year back. So
yes, but sir, that your feedback is definitely useful, because what we will do is and that's why we have a kind of a topic there as well. So we will of course there will be a little bit of repetition along the way. And sometimes we are also releasing a lot of new features. For example, right now we are working on improving the PowerPoint for portfolios. So those things we will keep covering. So it's sometimes, maybe it's useful if you missed a little, small little thing here or there. It always gets covered in these trainings. But we will, of course, we are going to, focus on specific, topics on terminology and maybe how to improve portfolios and create portfolios as well. We will keep
sure. Yeah. It was just a suggestion, I would say.
Understand. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Arunabji, one more question from my side is in balance advantage funds, where you showed the net exposure to equities.
Yes.
Can we see general exposure means in the section itself? Means when we compare balance advantage fund, there is a category.
Yeah.
We will know that a particular, let's say, Kotak balance you showed was 51%.
Yes.
Maybe some other will be 40%. Some that the net exposure is visible here.
So you mean in this
Compare section?
In the compare section,
Right.
let's just confirm 1 second.
Yeah, it's a very interesting question. Yeah, it involves.
That's right. Which one, and also which one should be shown, right? So here it looks like the shorts are not considered, right? Because 69 looks to me quite high. So actually, sir, this is I will ask you instead, sir. What do you think the right answer is? Should this be net or should this be not net?
It should be net, because then and then only we will know whether the fund is in aggressive stand, taking stand, or defensive. Because
this figure we know it is always above 65 because they have to maintain
Right.
taxation. So it's not a significant number. Net is definitely very useful.
Okay, perfect, sir. So we will make that change very soon. These processes run every night. So in the next couple of days, we will change this, and these will automatically become the net equity, not the.
Similarly, in equity savings category, means all those hybrid category where equity short exposure is taken.
Absolutely. Yes.
Right?
Yes, definitely. Yes.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, that will definitely be done. We've got it now.
See the PowerPoint section. One more question. In PowerPoint section for a particular scheme, we can prepare a PowerPoint. But let's say if we want to show a comparison of 2 to 3 funds in a say mid cap or say large cap something, side by side, how can we compare it?
Oh, sir.
For a report.
Yeah. For a report, sir, it's a good time for you to ask this because we are currently it's in process. For about 4 to 5 pages have already been coded up. So I expect maybe in the next 2 to 3 weeks something will show up next to export option. Maybe we'll bring it to the left so people can see it. But what we are currently doing, sir, is you can have up to 20 for a PowerPoint report only. You will have to have maximum of 20 funds because otherwise it becomes very problematic to show it in a PowerPoint. So you will be able to print out a PowerPoint report of up to 20 fund stocks, whatever you want here in one click.
Yeah. So because whenever we see, we want to show people to go for a particular mid cap fund or say large cap fund, they will pose questions to us. And sometimes showing it side by side, it helps.
It helps, yes. So this is there it will be possible. For example, here we've downloaded all the dynamic asset allocation funds. So ideally, what you could do is sort them by age and take the ones that are very recent. Take them out because they're too young as funds. And once you do that, you will have less than 20. And as soon as you have less than 20, you'll be able to click the PowerPoint button and you'll have a.
That will be great. Thank you.
Okay. Does anybody have any other questions? Mr. Atul Mishra is still waiting for somebody to get in touch. I don't know if anybody from Anirup's team is here. Please take a note.
We will get in touch with you just after the meeting ends.
Perfect. Okay, excellent. So unless there's any other questions, I think maybe we can wrap it up now.
Sure. So thank you so much, everyone. We would come again next week, Friday, 4 o'clock, with different sets of topics. And with all your feedbacks, we will keep improving our systems. So thank you so much. Have a nice weekend. Thank you.
Thank you.